takes, what it will. Foundations cracked and the earth trembles. Homes like boats on raging waves. We hold each other, we are brave. The wind doesn't ask for permission here. It teaches reverence through fear. Oh, be rain, brutal yet fair. You steal our breath and salt our prayer. We don't stay because your wild mother fears. To every child a beauty born from all your rage is written on our weathered page. When typhoon winds came howling through, they carried houses and families too. Miles across the tundra blown, seeds of sorrow widely sown. Coastal villages brought to their knees by the fury of these seas. Oh, Bering, fierce and fair, you steal our breath and salt our prayer. We do not stay though because your wild mother fears. To every child a beauty born from all your rage is written on our weathered page. Today the sun came out to shine, but couldn't warm this grief of mine. Hearts are heavy, rubble cleared. We hold each other through the fear. Grandfather waves, remember all how communities rise when neighbors fall. Grandmother wind, she sings her song, teaching us where we belong. Small communities learn to stand by, lifting a neighbor's hand. Ancient stories in the ice, every season has its price. The elders knew what we now see. Strength lives in community. My sons will learn what ancestors know. Respect the storm, dance with the snow. The land that breaks you makes you whole. Chaos shapes your soul. Not in spite of all the cost, but for the knowing, never lost in gentler places. Safer ground where elder truth can't be found. The raven watches from above. This is how the land shows love. Gratitude for every dawn, even after all that's gone. This remote and rugged life cuts us clean just like a knife. Oh, Bering brutal, Bering fair, you steal our breath and salt our prayer. We stay not in spite, but because you're real. Your terrible beauty helps us feel grateful for the lives we're given in this remote and wild heaven where the horrific meets the sublime. We're paying our dues, one storm at a time. Never done between the darkness and the sun, but we stay strong, we understand. You earn your place upon this land. The oceans drum, the winds refrain. We are the children of the rain.
Live on the air, it's Trial Junkies United with your host, Z.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. Greetings to all of our truth seekers and justice warriors. I'm Z, your storyteller in the wilderness of injustice, and my ride or die Doc is riding shotgun as we navigate the darkness where the powerful turn their backs and the system fails our most vulnerable. Doc, tonight we're doing something a little bit different.
And what is that?
Are you ready to shine a light on some forgotten stories?
Well, yeah.
I want you all to buckle up. The path ahead grows bumpy, not because of nature alone, but because those in power have made the road impossible to travel for our Native and Indigenous brothers and sisters. Before we begin, I need to share something personal with you. The reason we're covering this today, the reason we even know about this catastrophe is because of our very own sweet and loving Capri law. Not CNN or the big social networks out, the news networks, but Capri, whose brother and sister-in-law live in the affected area. And so she let us know what was going on. And this is their website, Frozen Hobo Adventure Media on Facebook. Check them out. Her family has takes beautiful photographs, you guys. Absolutely gorgeous. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and they show the beauty of Alaska, the real Alaska, the one the tourism boards don't always talk about because their connection is to the land. And what we're going to talk about is what happened recently. So I'm going to take you back to Saturday night, October 11th, 2025. Now picture this. Now, I'm going to tell you right away, I've got a lot of Native and Indigenous names of cities and towns. Bear with me. And I hope everyone understands, especially those in that community. I'm going to do my best. I really am. But picture this. You're in your home in Kipnuk, Alaska, a small Yupik village of about 715 people on the Bering Sea coast. Outside, the wind is screaming at over 100 miles per hour. And then you hear wood creaking and you feel it. Your house is moving. Now, it's not shaking, it's actually moving. You're floating, just like in a boat going down the river in the dark with no one steering or no one in control. Just think about that. Right there, that's a container, shipping container that came up to a house. Brea Paul is a resident of Kipnuk, and she saw around 20 homes float past her window that night. Hey, Louise, and hello to everyone. Sorry I didn't get to mention everyone's name. She later said some houses, they would blink their phone lights at us like they were asking for help as they floated by, but we couldn't even do anything. So far, Typhoon Halong, I think, has killed at least one person. It's displaced over 1,500. 2 are still missing, and it's left 2 entire villages completely uninhabitable. But here's what makes this story even more devastating. You probably haven't even heard about it because it happened to Indigenous people. And apparently that doesn't make for good headlines in the lower 48 states. The storm was a natural phenomenon, but the abandonment, that's all on the people in the government and the media. Because they sure wanted to talk about the nor'easter that hit the East Coast. And this is one of, that's one of the houses. See, it's upside down. That's scary. This is also from Capri's family, from Frozen Hobo Adventure Media, one of their pictures that shows the beauty of the area.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's what they call the YK Delta or the Yukon Delta.
Mm-hmm.
And this is happened the weekend of October 11th and 12th of 2025. The remnants of Typhoon Halong slammed into the western Alaska's Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. This is one of the largest river deltas in the world. We're talking 50,000 square miles here, where the Yukon and the Kuskokwim rivers empty into the Bering Sea. And a lot of you may have heard of the Bering Sea when you've heard about the guys that go fishing, remember, from the heart.
Deadliest catch guys?
Yes. Well, this is along the coast of the Bering Sea. These communities here are remote. They don't have roads that actually connect them to other villages. The only way in or out is by plane or boat. And a one-way ticket can cost anywhere from $100 to $750. And about 25,000 to 38,000 people live in this region, and 85% of them are Alaskan Native, primarily Yupik and Athabaskan people who've lived here for thousands of years. And Kipnuk and Kwigillingok,
Kwigillingok.
Thanks, Doc. Are two of the villages with a combined population of approximately over 1,000 people, separated by 30 miles, took the worst of the storm. The numbers are staggering, you guys. This picture is by Steve Evers, and this is his home that he went back and saw, and it's not where it originally was. So the water levels reached 14.5 feet. That's 6.6 feet above the standard tide line. And it shattered the previous record from the year 2000 by nearly 2 feet. And
that would mean that house was probably underwater.
Well, it floated. So once the water receded, parts of it were, because he had water in his house. He was trapped in there.
Goodness.
Steve was trapped in there. In Kwigillingok, the surge hit 16.69 feet, more than 3 feet higher than the previous record from 1990. Now, not all these pictures are going to go with the towns when I'm talking about them, because I had to get a lot of the pictures from TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. The Coast Guard and the National Guard were putting out some photos also.
Yeah, because heaven forbid it was actually took pictures by the big media.
Yeah. Now, I will say the local media was out there, but they're small, The Bering Sea Gold and Deadliest Cat. Yep, you're right, Kerrville. So the winds exceeded 170 miles per hour. That's a Category 2 to a Category 3 hurricane strength. Now, on this side of the coast, they call them typhoons. Pretty much the same thing as a hurricane, which we see on the Gulf and the East Coast. Ryan David was home with his 4 children in Kwigillingok when he felt his house start to shake. He told KYUK radio, "The flood lifted us up, and I didn't think it was going to happen. I yelled at my kids to get up and group up here on the stairs, just in case we tipped over." His house floated down a small creek before crashing against a bridge. Debris blocked the door. They had to wait for rescue. Think about that. You and your 4 children are waiting for a rescue. Yeah, you're right, Kerrville. And we've seen that down here in the lower 48. But nobody's talking about what happened up there. Now, Steve actually was one of the other residents. We saw his house, and he experienced the same nightmare. The floodwaters carried away his home while he was inside, floating about a half a mile. As the house shook violently, he described the terrifying experience of being trapped inside while everything outside was being destroyed. So he could hear all that, and yet he couldn't get out.
I feel so bad for him because I can't even imagine how bad that would be.
Yeah. His home is beyond repair. It floated away completely. He finally made it to his brother's house, but then they had to evacuate to the school. Eventually, he was taken to a shelter in Bethel, Alaska. Now, he only could grab what he was able to, like some dry clothes that he was able to find, his gaming console. Kerville, you'll be glad he got his gaming console, and some pictures. After 17 grueling hours, he's now staying at a shelter where he's able to reconnect with his worried mother. He said the immediate needs are clothing, food, water, and shelter. And this is a picture of some of them that are evacuating. Now, some of these people, they've probably never left their village. And he said his family members are being evacuated to different areas, and he doesn't know when, but hopes to return to Kwigillingok, his whole life.
Kwigillingok.
Thank you. You just might have to say it for me, Doc. I tried. I really did. His whole life, where he fished, hunted, and gathered berries. By Monday, October 13th, the rescue teams had saved 51 people and 2 dogs. The U.S. Coast Guard, Alaska's Army National Guard, and Alaska Air National Guard flew helicopters in the storm, pulling people from rooftops and floating houses, but not everyone made it. 67-year-old Ella May Kashatok was found deceased in Kwigillingok.
No, wait a minute. Leona's right. I saw that in one of the YouTube videos I brought up. They call it Quig for short.
Oh, thank you, Leona. That helps tremendously because I'm really trying. So they lost Ella May Kashatok, and 2 men, Vernon Pavel, 71, and Chester Kashatok, 41, remain missing. They were last seen in a home that broke loose and floated toward the Bering Sea. And you can't, that has to be devastating. We're glad you joined us, Leona. Is it Quig? Quig. Okay. I'm trying, you guys. And so there's a helicopter going to rescue. Officials on Thursday said that 121 homes were destroyed in Kipnuk, but all people have been accounted for. The Coast Guard captain, Christopher Culpepper, called it absolute devastation. And where were the national news cameras? Where was CNN's crews that show up for every hurricane in Florida, Texas, the East Coast?
Crickets.
Where was the 24-hour coverage, Doc?
Crickets.
Nowhere. Because this happened to Indigenous people.
Mm.
So, we can't be too worried about it, right?
Just infuriates you.
Exactly. Here's what really pisses me off. Every single home in Kipnuk was damaged or destroyed. Hey, Farquhar. Good to join. We're so happy you joined us in Julie's guitar. Every single
it is
home.
Our honor to air this information.
Every home in Quig, about 3 dozen homes drifted completely off of their foundations. The school was the only building with full power, but it had no working toilets. 400 people sheltered there on Monday night. In Kipnuk, as many as 600 were crowded into the local school, which had failing plumbing and spotty electricity. Mark Roberts, the incident commander with the State Emergency Management Division, told reporters, "It's catastrophic in Kipnuk. Let's not paint any other picture." At least 49 communities across the region were impacted. Here is one of the Western Alaskan Disaster Funds. At the end, Doc is going to put all of the resources to donate to the communities. So across the region were impacted. Power systems flooded. Fuel drums floated through villages, leaving a sheen of oil on the water. Entire boardwalks were ripped away. So there will be environmental issues because of the oil. Drinking water will be an issue once they can get people in there. So what's been the response from the officials? Slow, painfully slow. But let's read what some of the people on social media are saying. The people like Yupik, Martin Paul, who has family up there, and Antonio Cormack, who is a great advocate in the Alaskan area, and some others that just put up their thoughts. One said, "What's even harder is the silence. Barely any media coverage. No headlines. Just our people lift to rebuild on their own." Because you'll see some headlines that'll say, "Weather nor'easter and Alaska," and I've sat there and watched, and they don't even mention Alaska. Shame on those in power. Shame on the officials who aren't handling this with the urgency it requires, and shame on the national media for deciding that Indigenous lives aren't important enough for prime time coverage. As Doc likes to say, I can get my righteous indignation going here.
Well, it's a situation where it's not, they didn't even bother to mention it, much less cover the situation. It's just you hear nothing about it.
Yeah. And Leona, I'm going to talk about that because it's right. How the Yupik people live in the area is they gather their food in the spring and the summer. And we'll go into that a little deeper. On Wednesday, October 15th, officials finally visited the school in Kipnuk and informed the residents that they had to evacuate. And it was mandatory. And that's Kipnuk in that picture, you guys. That's the picture of them. They were told to pack one bag. Leave your pets. I can hear the gasps.
Yeah.
Leave almost everything. And we can't imagine being told that, can we? It would break our hearts. Buggy Carl, a resident of Kipnuk and an emergency response official, recorded the announcement. He said, "So many tears, just crying their eyes out." He said, "I understand their pain and frustration, but this is for their own safety." Jackie Lang, a teacher at the school, was desperately trying to coordinate with Bethel Friends of Canines, a pet rescue organization, to airlift the animals. She was putting duct tape collars on the dogs with the owner information. People were being forced to leave behind their dogs, their sled dogs, their working animals, their family members. Bethel Friends of Canines issued an urgent appeal. One round trip charter is approximately $3,000. We don't know how many times we will need to do this. And as you can see, some of the air cargo carriers are uniting for the Western Alaskan disaster relief. And like I said, more information will be in the description on how you can assist and help in these endeavors. Authorities determined that none of the housing in Kipnuk or Quig was safe to occupy. 2 entire villages, over 1,000 people, told their homes are unlivable. Now, that's not saying there's some damage. We're going to come right over and fix them. Because remember, they don't have roads into these communities. For big supplies, they have to come in by boat or a plane. There isn't a Home Depot to run to. There isn't a Walmart. So they've evacuated 500 miles to Anchorage, where the University of Alaska Anchorage opened an arena to shelter them. 500 miles from home, with winter approaching and no idea when or if they can return. Remember, they live and work in harmony with nature. They lead sustainable lives. And what that means is they gather the berries, they do fishing and hunting, and this is what they work all spring and summer, gathering these supplies to make it through the winter. There's no Costco. So they work in harmony with the land to survive. Now gone and trying to figure out, all of that's gone. All of their hard work that they've spent months doing so that they can handle the winter and the family will be, have food. It's gone. And so they're trying to figure out from minute to minute what comes next. I mean, put yourself in that position. Yeah, I've seen some pictures of your sister-in-law on her Instagram with the fishing. You want to know who's actually showing up for these communities? They are showing up for each other. Their families who live in different parts of Alaska, other Alaskan natives and indigenous people are showing up for them. Most people in Alaska get on the Facebook, get on the TikTok and Instagram. They're sharing the information. Sue Yupik and Martin Paul, like I said, Antonio Cormack, these are some of the indigenous voices on social media, and they're sharing updates, advising where to find relief organizations, helping their families and communities navigate the crisis. I did reach out to them to learn more, to amplify voices, but you know what? They're busy because someone has to be doing the work and they didn't have time, and I understand it. Yeah. And we have to give it, we will call out bad law enforcement when we see it, but we do have to, like Leona said, the Alaskan State Troopers, the Coast Guard, the National Guard, they've been helping. The National Guard is actually doing what the National Guard's supposed to do. Instead of invading other cities, they were helping the people that live in their state. And that was what was important.
I think the real beef is that none of the major networks are covering it, period. It's not the local needs, that haven't taken up, like the National Guard and stuff. It's just not being covered, period.
Right. Well, and some of the upper government officials aren't really doing a whole lot.
Yep.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
So they're busy actually helping people. And so I didn't get a chance to speak to them personally. The only other people, like I had said, that were showing up were the Coast Guard, the National Guard, doing their jobs, flying into hurricane force winds to rescue people from rooftops and floating homes. One of the women, I think it was on, I can't remember if it was TikTok or Facebook, making a call, begging for someone to come get them. The house was floating. She didn't know what to do. It broke your heart. So these service members are sharing images because they can't believe what they're seeing. And I'm sure they're frustrated that no one else is paying attention. Now, the Association of Village Council Presidents did mobilize immediately. They deployed a C-130 aircraft and helicopters on Sunday afternoon to search and rescue. And the Alaskan Community Foundation worked with regional leaders to establish the Western Alaskan Disaster Relief Fund within days. Native-led organizations are coordinating the supply drives. Alaska Native villages are taking in displaced families. Yupik communities are sharing what little they have. And of course, the governor, guess where he's at? We don't know, probably in his office. And so where are the elected officials? Making this a national priority, I'm sure, right, Doc?
I doubt it.
No. Where's the emergency response that would have been mobilized within hours if this had happened in Miami or Houston? Governor Mike Dunleavy expanded his disaster declaration, sure. Has he flown over the area and tried to talk with the people? Has he gone to the shelters? The response has been slow, inadequate. FEMA's involved now, but we know how gutted they've been. And it's been days of delay while these people are just trying to survive. So let me be clear. This is what systematic racism looks like. This is what happens when Indigenous lives are treated as less important, less urgent, less worthy of help. Do you think if this had been a major Alaskan city, hey, Fairbanks, Juneau, the response would have been slow like this? Nope.
Mm-mm.
And the road was already bumpy for these communities because they're isolated, they're underfunded, they're forgotten. Like we said, the school, the plumbing, and the electricity. And those empowered just made it bumpier by looking the other way. So think about that. After visiting Bethel following the typhoon that devastated the YK Delta, witnesses saw firsthand the trauma facing nearly 1,500 evacuated residents from Quig and Kipnuk. Survivors shared their harrowing stories of walking through 70-mile-an-hour winds and ice-cold water and darkness. The shock and concern are visible in their faces and their voices. One person from Kipnuk who lost his own house asked the visitors to pray for Quig, saying they were hit even harder than us. And you know what? That's the Yupik way. Concern for others, even in your own devastation. A challenge to leaders: don't just watch the news from the comfort of your own home or your office. See it yourself. Talk to the people. Visit the shelters. Tour the villages. Walk what boardwalks are left. Look into those children's eyes as they wonder what's going to happen next. Most of these people lost everything, entire villages, a lifetime of work, their home and their way of life. What they need? To be seen and to be heard. Assurances they won't be forgotten. They need hope, tangible help in the coming days and weeks. So everyone needs to pray for the YK Delta. Watch for ways to help. Get involved. Every bit matters. These are our friends, our families, our fellow Alaskans and Americans. They deserve all the help we can give them. Let me tell you something else Brea Paul said. On Saturday night, she watched as those 20 homes floated by in the moonlight. And the next morning, she actually recorded a video of a house submerged nearly to its roofline as it floated past her home. She posted online because if she didn't, who else was going to tell the story? On Monday night, her and her neighbors gathered in the school gym. They sang songs. They tried to figure out what to do next. She said, it's so heartbreaking saying goodbye to our village, our community, our members, not knowing we'd get to see each other. And one thing you need to understand for the Yupik people Community is just as important. It's not just important. It's their foundation of their entire way of life. Their culture centers on collective survival, shared identity, and a strong sense of interconnection. This word right here, which I'm not even going to attempt, a Yupik word, but it means the way of life, is the core value system that they teach their people to live without harming themselves, others, or nature. You place community welfare above individual interests. Community as survival. Their living requires everyone to work together in the hunting and the fishing and the gathering from the land and the sea. Food and resources are shared communally, creating a rhythm of life that depends on cooperation. No one survives alone. The communities are a collective effort that ensures everyone's survival. They persevere through the togetherness. The elders serve as cultural and spiritual leaders, passing down their wisdom and knowledge. The traditional practices, their storytelling, the dance language are all preserved and shared and through experiences. Its school functions as the community hub, like we saw when everyone had to go somewhere safe. The culture flows between the generations. There's emotional and spiritual bonds. I watched one young man's YouTube video that he made, and he talked about how he was 17, but he was worried about some of their culture because some of the elders were getting old, and he wanted to make sure that they didn't lose their traditions. And it was very heartwarming. Hey, Rev, glad to see you. Barbara, glad to see you too. So the community provides support systems for coping with grief and hardship. They have collective rituals and practices, strength, social bonds, even spiritual connections to the land, talking to the tundra and the rocks, reflect a communal worldview. The bottom line for Yupik people, individual identity is it's linked to their community identity. Their culture teaches that you cannot thrive alone. Survival, meaning, and fulfillment all come through being part of something larger than yourself. And that's why this displacement, with them having to leave their homes, being evacuated, but then being separated, is really hard. Because it's not just the loss of their home, it's the disruption of the very fabric that gives life its meaning. I mean, that's how they live. And now to be separated from each other, think about that. I know for us, it's harder. And this is another beautiful photo from Frozen Hobo Adventure Media. I mean, just look at how gorgeous this area is that Capri's family shares with people. They've spent years, showcasing the beauty of Alaska, the majesty of the land, the strength of the people, the connection between the Yupik communities and the Bering Sea that sustains them. And now they have to live through this nightmare. Capri said they had limited power, communication. They have to be careful with what they can use right now. So they're doing everything they can, I'm sure, to help their neighbors and the rest of the community. But you know what? The rest of the lower 48, we're just moving on. And these aren't just statistics. These are people whose entire lives and those of their ancestors for 3,000 years are tied to the land and these waters. The Yupik people have over 33,000 members living in the United States, with the vast majority still in Alaska. Hey, Hellcat. Their culture is built on that word that means the meaning of life, or the way of life. I'm not even attempting that one. This isn't a lifestyle they can pack up and move. It's their identity. And I think that's something, Doc, we don't understand.
No, I mean, because things come way too easy for us.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And right now, they're posting on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, trying to let the people know what is happening. Listen to some of them as they begged for help when they were in their homes and floating away. Sharing images of what was destroyed, documenting this humanitarian crisis in real time because nobody else was documenting it. And the lower 48, we just keep scrolling on. And here's the hard truth. This storm was made worse, and some are going to disagree, by climate change. The Arctic is warming at twice the global average. Permafrost is thawing. Sea ice is disappearing. Storm surges are reaching further in. Kipnuk has flooded at least 30 times between 1979 and 2002. So it's not new, but this is a pattern that's getting worse. And Indigenous communities in Alaska, they've contributed the least to the climate change because they really live with the land. But they are the ones that are suffering first and worse because of it. These villages were forced onto flood-prone land because of colonization, and now they're facing environmental collapse driven by the fossil fuel extractions, which they had no part in. Rick Thorman, an Alaskan climate specialist, said Indigenous communities in Alaska are resilient, but when you have an entire community where effectively every house is damaged, and many of them will be uninhabitable with winter knocking at the door right now. And remember, they no longer have their supplies for the winter. They have no more food. There's only so much that any individual or small community can do. What does the administration do? Well, let me tell you what the administration did. The EPA, led by Lee Zeldin, canceled a $20 million federal grant in May of 2025 that was designated for flood protection in Kipnuk. Now, I'm going to be fair, that wouldn't have stopped this event from happening, but it would have helped future times because the grant was intended for riverbank stabilization. And as you can see from this picture, you can see where it's those posts
being eroded.
Yeah, those posts are the road.
Yeah.
And this is that lovely EPA guy. So let's all give him a little wave. Good job there, dude. I'm sure your home's well protected.
Thumbs up, dude.
Protecting against erosion from thawing permafrost, building future flood resilience, essential context. While this specific grant wouldn't have, like I said, wouldn't have prevented this typhoon, but it was going to be helping in the years coming in the planning and the construction. But they canceled it. Of course, they're sending over 20 million and maybe 40 million to Argentina, but that's beside the point. Last I knew, Argentina was not part, but Alaska's might not be exactly connected, but they are part of the U.S. Taxpayer dollars, interesting.
It's all agendas.
All agendas. So the Alaskan communities remain vulnerable to future flooding, which is expected to worsen. Broader impact, over 600 similar grants totaling $1.7 billion were canceled across Alaska and other states, labeled as wasteful DEI and environmental justice programs. So in other words, they're trying to say they were racist. So we're trying to take the land back, which makes sense because I'm sure they want to drill, remember? Drill all over that land, but it's not theirs. Something to contemplate, people. We need to opine. Over 450 EPA staff in the environmental justice roles are being fired or reassigned. Alaska's vulnerable. Communities have lost their funding for flood mapping and storm resilience, planning, and climate infrastructure. As of mid-October 2025, over 1,500 people remain displaced. We don't know when they're going to be able to go back. And think about this. Their job is survival. Most of them do not have a 9-to-5 job because their job is to live off the land and to survive, something that's hard for us to contemplate. So now you take them and you send them to Anchorage. What are they to do?
And what are they going to do in Anchorage?
Exactly. What's going to happen to them? The American Red Cross says this will be a prolonged relief operation lasting months. Winter is coming. Food stored for winter is ruined. Heating stoves are damaged. Some villages lack the power and running water. Most rebuilding supplies are either flown or barged in. And there's little time left before winter. So the reality is some people may never get to return home. And what will become of them? Newtok, another Alaskan Native village, has already abandoned its old village and moved to Mertvok. Infrastructure is still struggling with that. And this is what happens with what they call climate migration. And this is what cultural erasure looks like. And it's happening right now to American citizens, while those in power make the road even bumpier by their inaction. So I want you to think about that. Whoops, we're not ready for you. So I want to be clear about something. The reason you're hearing this story is because of Capri and her family, that she let us know, and the Indigenous people in Alaska that you can find on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. They are documenting their own experiences of catastrophe. The Coast Guard National Guard members are sharing what they're witnessing. The Native-led organizations are sounding the alarm, not because of the major media, though. You don't see ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, or whatever alphabet you want to throw out there. There's a nice article in The Guardian, which, if I'm not mistaken, is not from around here. So, not because those in power made this a priority. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone, including Capri's brother and her sister-in-law, who are navigating this difficult time with limited power and resources. And I know they're busy, trying to help their community and to work things out of where everyone's going to be. And then that's exactly where their focus has to be. Our social media post said it, one social media post said it perfectly. I guess depending on where you get your news, they had storm warnings all weekend. Translation, if you only watch mainstream news in the lower 48. You don't know this happened at all. So shame on the media. Shame on the officials who responded slowly. Shame on everyone who decided that Indigenous lives aren't worth the same urgency, the same resources, and the same attention as everybody else. Shame on those in power who have made the road so impossibly bumpy for our Native and Indigenous brothers and sisters, and turn away when the wheels finally came off. Let's take a moment. We're going to look at some missing people, and then we'll come back and wind up. This is Gage Miller. He's only 17 years old, and he went missing on August 10th from the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana. He's 5'8", 180 pounds, brown eyes, brown hair. He was wearing a brown sweater and black jeans. They really don't have a lot of information on him. But the Blackfeet law enforcement at 406-338-4000, give them a call if you have seen him. Because remember, some people disappear on purpose or voluntarily, and then later they're unable to come home, and others never get a choice. Now, on October 4th of this year, Maya Gill, she's 13, you guys, disappeared from the 1600 block of Chapel Hills Drive in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Her nickname goes by Maya, M-Y-A. She's 5'4" and 120 pounds. She has black hair with a blue tint. Go girl, I like that. Brown eyes. Her clothing, she had a black crop top, a black sweater, black jeans, black sweatpants. They say she could be in the Woodland Park area. They actually did activate the missing Indigenous person alert in Colorado Springs. So if you see her, contact Colorado Springs PD at 719-444-7000 or call 911, you guys. Next, we have Nevaeh Creek Chartren. She's 14. She went missing October 11th at St. Andrews, Manitoba, Canada. She's of the First Nations. She left her group home for a walk and has not returned. She has green eyes, black hair, and she's 5'2" and thin. So they said it's possible she could be going toward Winnipeg, Manitoba. If you have information, contact the Selkirk RCMP at 204-482-1222. Or you can contact Crime Stoppers at 204-786-8477 if you don't want to be identified. The Bear Clan also has 204-794-3568, and Morgan's Warriors at 204-996-9347. So they have plenty of people looking for Nevaeh. Let's hope they find her. Next, we have Raquel Nicole Martinez. She's 15. She disappeared September 28th from Chesterfield County, Virginia. She has dark hair, looks black, and brown eyes. Other than that, they do not have information on Raquel. The Chesterfield County Police at 804-748-1251 or 911. They do have a case number, which is V is in Virginia, A is in Apple, 253918. So stay alert. You could save a life. Remember these faces when you're out in public, at stores or transit, anywhere. Look around. Human trafficking and missing person cases happen everywhere. Victims often hide in plain sight. That person you see might be someone's missing loved one. Trust your instincts. If you recognize someone or witness something suspicious, contact the authorities immediately and don't assume someone else will call. Your action could save a life. And remember, our hashtag, silence is betrayal. Say something. If you see something, say something. And remember, we do have a tip line, tips, the number 4 at trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com if you're bashful. So now you might ask, for our Alaskan brothers and sisters, how can we help? Well, what the community looks like, what mutual aid looks like, and what showing up for each other looks like. They're raising money. They're organizing supply drives. They're taking in displaced families and rescuing each other's dogs. They're singing songs together in school gyms while figuring out the next step. And I know many of you want to help. And from the experience of helping with the last typhoon, one person said, I also recommend stick to the lists or making monetary donations. Please refrain from creating extra work for volunteers by bringing items that are not on the list. Because some people were trying to donate big items. These people just got evacuated. So right now, they don't need big items. They need clothing. They need money. They need, items just to survive the day to day for right at the moment. This is Mussy and Runny. And they are at the AFN Craft Fair. And they wanted to make sure that many of the Yupik women, and I'm sure the children, they do crafting. And some of them do it so that they can use it for a source of income. Some do it for pleasure, I'm sure. We all know if we craft that it's something that can release tension. And so while they're at the fair, they said they would set up their table, then accept crafting supply donations, which at table 88. And these donations are for friends and family who were evacuated and had to leave all their supplies behind. They would prefer new supplies or those in good condition. Please note they have limited storage, so you might want to think of smaller items. And it's easier to make it easier for them. Wasn't that just an awesome, thoughtful gesture for these two women? The support, the culture, and livelihood. They're surviving. They're resilient. They've been resilient for 3,000 years, but they shouldn't have to do it alone. And before I go, I want to leave you with something Brea Paul said. It's so heartbreaking saying goodbye to our community members, not knowing when we'll get to see each other again. These are people, families, communities with thousands of years of history, rich culture, and a deep connection to the land. They need our help. We're going to list the places to donate so that those in need can be helped. And we'll put those in the description because I know some of you will want to donate. But thank you guys. I really want to thank Capri for bringing this to our attention because we know Thursdays we do usually do MMIP cases, but this is just as important that our Indigenous and Native brothers and sisters are in this horrendous situation and they need help. So if you can, please donate and be there for them. We thank you from the bottom of our heart for bringing it to us because we want to get the word out. We do love our Capri. And what you can do, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit like, make sure you share this on your social media. Get this story out. The more views we get, the more they'll keep showing it. And that way we will get more people's eyes on what is happening in Alaska to the Yupik people. And we want to be able to get more people to donate. Thank you to my lovely mods. I know Lazy River, Irish Amy, Fala, and Katrina. And this has been Trial Junkies United. Doc, any last words for you?
No, I'm almost speechless by the inactivity that's going on. It's just if it was anywhere else and any other people, the story would have been out already. And it just, exactly. That is infuriating.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Congratulations on hitting 200 subs. Thank you, Fala. It's all due to you guys, the community we're building. So I'm Z, my ride or die doc. We're going to still be telling these stories. Sunday, we have two very special guests. If you have not seen the documentary on the unknown caller, you might want to check it out because we're going to have spoilers. The storm may have been nature, but the abandonment is due to the humans, the governments, the people that just don't care. So please follow Frozen Hobo Adventure Media on Facebook, their Instagram at Frozen Hobam. See the beauty that they've captured and understand what's at stake for them. Follow So Yupik, it's SEW. And Martin Paul, he's a young college student whose family got evacuated. So he was going to be off social media for a few days to help his family. Share the social media posts from Kipnuk and Quig. Donate if you can. And for the love of God, don't let the world forget about these communities, you guys. Let's bang the drums and shout as much as we can. Just because the media and those in power have already done so, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected. Stay strong, Alaska. We see you. Until next time, stay informed, stay compassionate, seek justice. I love you all, and we'll see you Sunday for our Sunday edition. Ciao. Love you guys.
The sea takes what it will. Foundations cracked and the earth trembles. Homes like boats on raging waves. We hold each other, we are brave. The wind doesn't ask for permission. It teaches reverence through fear. Oh, barren, brutal yet fair. You steal our breath and salt our prayer. We don't stay but because you're wild. Mother fierce to every child. The beauty born from all your rage is written on our weathered page. When typhoon winds came howling through, they carried houses and families too. Miles across the tundra blown, seeds of sorrow widely sown. Coastal villages brought to their knees by the fury of these seas. Oh, bearing fierce and fair, you steal our breath and salt our prayer. We do not stay though because you're wild. Mother fierce to every child. The beauty born from all your rage is written on our weathered page. Today the sun came out to shine, but couldn't warm this grief of mine. Hearts are heavy, rubble cleared. We hold each other through the fear. Grandfather waves, remember all how communities rise when neighbors fall. Grandmother wind, she sings her song, teaching us where we belong. Whoa. Small communities learn to stand by lifting a neighbor's hand. Ancient stories in the ice. Every season has its price. The elders knew what we now see. Strength lives in community. My sons will learn what ancestors know. Respect the storm, dance with the snow. The land that breaks you makes you whole. Chaos shapes your soul. Not in spite of all the cost, but for the knowing never lost. In gentler places, safer ground, where elder truth can't be found. The raven watches from above. This is how the land shows love. Gratitude for every dawn, even after all that's gone. This remote and rugged life cuts us clean, just like a knife. Oh, bearing brutal, bearing fair, you steal our breath and salt our prayer. We stay not in spite, but because you're real. Your terrible beauty helps us feel grateful for the lives we're given in this remote and wild heaven, where the horrific meets the sublime. We're paying our dues, one storm at a time. strong, we understand. You earn your place upon this land. The ocean's drum, the winds refrain. We are the children of